is such a special place. You can be from anywhere in the world and you'll be welcomed with open arms.
Welcome to Breaking Bread, the Birmingham food podcast. Takes you behind the scenes of the greatest, most exciting food scene in the UK. Obviously, Birmingham. We're your hosts. I'm Liam. Beside me is my brother from another mother, Carl.
What's up?
I never know what he's going to do. I'm on tenderhooks like.
I never know. To be honest, I didn't remember not to say hello.
On today's episode, we talk about her new pop-up restaurant. I don't know what to describe it as. It's not really a pop-up restaurant.
No.
Destination 105. Obviously, we'll get into that.
Yeah, it's open now as well.
Her incredible career, the benefits of being a private chef and being on both MasterChef and Great British Menu. But before all that, let's say thanks to our sponsors. Obviously, first up, our first ever sponsor, Burning Barn Rum. Love them guys. Big fans of their rum. Obviously, Carl's a bigger fan of their rum than I am.
I am, yeah.
But I love
Big
the brand.
fan.
I love their story. Obviously, go back and listen to their podcast from the other week. Brilliant. Absolute brilliant. Locally made craft rum. They got the smoked rum.
Smoke rum's the one, yeah.
Yeah, you love
awesome.
the smoke rum. That's their hero product, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's great.
And then our second sponsor is obviously Easy Food, part of the Easy family. They're on a mission to support as many businesses as they can. They want you to stop getting ripped off by these other food delivery apps paying 40%. It's just nonsense. There's no need for it. They charge a flat fee, £1.50. Obviously, all the links to how to sign up to that and then download the app for yourself as a customer. It's good for a customer, let alone for a restaurant business. Go and download them apps now and go check out Burning Barn. Links for both our sponsors are in the show notes. So with all that said, Carl, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, man. All good.
Yeah, good. Where you been eating, man?
Well, we're going to bring it up today. I've made notes. We're doing well. My one I'm bringing up this week is Lisa and Pan.
Lisa and Pan.
We've been to, and I've been a couple of times since as well.
It's just somewhere I recommend to a lot of people now.
It's one of the places, go in, don't even ask for the menu, just ask them, say, what's good, and just let them give you some great food.
Yeah, just let them serve you.
They were great when they were at the Pig in the Jewelry Quarter.
I never went, you know.
No, I went a couple of times there as
Yeah,
well.
I
It was
never
great.
went.
It's like proper authentic. But yeah, Malaysian food, they've got proper traditional dishes as well. Like
I wanted her to come and sit and have dinner with us, but she was so nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's really cool.
She was awesome.
Everyone there, the service is great. Everything's great. It's bring your own booze.
The wings were massive and fantastic. Both parts of the wing as well. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that. It's not one. It's not a wing. It's half a wing. If you get a drum, that's half of a wing.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
But yeah, they're massive. Proper wings. Love them. I can't really remember what else there, to be honest.
Oh, you got the chicken satay. I'm not even going to try naming the main dishes
No.
because they're all good. There's, it's not a big menu either, so you can just sort of like, yeah, I'll have that. There's like 5 or 6 mains, I think,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah, it's very good.
and a few starter bits. How good's the cheesecake? Is it cheese? No, pandan cheesecake. at the
Pandan
end.
cheesecake at the end. That's the only. I think that's the only dessert on the menu. But
Yeah,
what
it's the only
else do you
choice.
need?
You know what? A lot of places are doing this. Just one dessert, and
Just
it's usually cheesecake.
Yeah, it is usually cheese.
Can't go wrong with cheesecake,
Nah,
unless you don't
everyone
like cheese or cake. But then you're just a bit
You're
weird.
not friends of ours.
You're a bit weird then, isn't it?
I went 670, and you went with me.
Yeah, I was there. You went really?
We went for restaurant festival, man.
Yeah, restaurant festival this year was banging. So many good offers.
Yeah, I mean, we love them. Well, I say guys, it's just Alex. Alex, who works stupidly hard, but it's such a great thing for the city. It does so much for getting people into loads of restaurants over that month of August.
Yeah, this
Absolutely
what she
brilliant.
does for restaurant festivals, almost like it's like a selfless act because there's not much make much out of it. Like it's
No.
just like for the city, and it's so good. And 670 had a great offer on.
I was trying to count the courses and I couldn't work out how many courses we had. I know we had a few extras because, we're mates with Cray and all that. But 70 quid. And it was, I can't, how many, at least 8 courses, 9 courses.
Way more, yeah. It was great.
It's hard to keep count.
670 is just fantastic anyway. I can't knock it.
It's one of the most original venues in the city. It's somewhere you genuinely look like you're excited about going because you know it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit edgy. And the improvements they've made since we last went, like watching his journey from when they first, well, before when he was doing pop-ups,
Yeah.
and then when he first opened 670, and every time we go, there's something new. Oh wow, look at this! This is good, isn't it?
He's got his funky wine bar down the stairs now,
Yeah.
and that's really nice.
It's really
inside.
impressive, man. Absolutely love it. I love the bhaji dish. That was my standout dish. And the sauce. I know he didn't make the sauce. It was going to be a bit bitter that I've chose. It's a sauce that he never made.
Yeah.
But that sauce was incredible.
I'm a big
It
Cray
was with the
FC
keema.
fan.
The keema. Oh, KFC
Cray FC
downstairs.
fan. Big fan.
Mate, even the custard tart. That was a nice little tie-in. That old bird's custard tub.
You know what? Everything
Yeah.
wasn't a bad dish.
No, it was fantastic.
Sometimes in a tasting menu, there's like not a low point, but there's something that's not
There's
incredible.
gotta be something,
But everything
isn't
was great,
Yeah, it was all fantastic.
and it's interesting. That's what I like about Cray's food. It's different and it's interesting. Like no one's doing half the stuff he's doing.
No, definitely not. Brilliant. It's good talent to have around the city. So, on to today's episode, as we touched on Chef Lou.
Great episode. I'm not going to sit and go, "Don't listen, it's rubbish." No, again, another banging episode.
Just a real big talent for the city. I know she's moved out of the city, but I'm classing it all still as, as Birmingham. And she,
Well, Nottingham, isn't it? So
yeah, she trained around Birmingham.
that's
and
not far. Nottingham's not far at all.
we track her career and all the big restaurants she's worked at. Just a great story.
And all the TV work.
Yeah, Great British Menu. MasterChef finalist.
Yeah,
Like-
both. Not many people get on both shows.
We definitely don't need to hype this one up more than it already is. Hopefully you enjoy it, and if you do, really help us out if you could subscribe to us on YouTube. You can see us, watch us now on
Hello.
YouTube. So if you could subscribe to us on there, that would be amazing. It would help us spread the positive Birmingham foodie message, and we would love you forever. So hope you all enjoy Chef Lou. Thanks for inviting us down to this. This is just, it's hard to explain. Like, it's stunning.
Thank you. Well, I didn't do any of the building work, but yeah, it's incredible. So it's called Destination 105, which is in the name itself, it's all about bringing people here to the venue. And obviously it has to look nice and to be the part, right? So hopefully we can do some pop-ups and bring other chefs here and collaborate and just really celebrate food and drink. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
It's a good name because it is a destination. It's a bit off the beaten track, but then it's really close to the city centre as well. It's
Yeah, it's not far.
the football grounds are just there. Trent Bridge is
Yeah.
just there. We passed it on the way in.
Forest is a nightmare. So when the Forest games are on, so I had a dinner party on Saturday and I hadn't realised there was a Forest game, and I started packing up all of my kit into my car. The place I had to go to was only 20 minutes up the road, and I put the sat nav in and it said 45 minutes. I was like, oh God. So I left straight away and I got stuck in traffic for ages. Luckily, I was actually ahead of time on that day, but if it'd been any other day, I would have been like an hour late.
There's something about that route that it brings you right in the middle of all of that. That road out the bridge.
Yeah.
And it just takes you in the middle of everything. And you're like, oh God, this is a nightmare.
It's stressful.
So we've obviously let slip that we're not in Birmingham today. We're on a little road trip, which was nice and exciting for us. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Luton, lovely sunny Luton, very well known for the airport and Crime Watch.
Super
So
famous.
yeah, and I started my career there. So I did catering college, and from catering college worked in a hotel. And there's not many fine dining restaurants in Luton, I have to say. You've got your standards, Mackey's, Burger King. I worked at a hotel called the Strathmore, and they did some okay, fine dining restaurant food, like just 2 rosette style. But that's where a lot of chefs start out, I think. And
What was it that made you want to get into food though?
I loved cooking at home.
Yeah.
It was kind of like my freedom as a kid. So I'm the eldest of 4, and it was my job to cook at home, basically. So spaghetti bolognese was the very first dish that I cooked, because my granny actually taught me how to make it. And I remember cooking it for my mum and dad one day and experimenting by putting chili in there. I put too much in. And I was kind of like where the kitchen's located in our house, so it's like the other side, and then they would sit on the sofa and eat their dinner, just like on the laps kind of thing. And I'd made it and took it through to them, and I was like peeping out of the kitchen door, just looking at their reactions because I was really excited to see what they thought. And my mum and dad just looked at each other and they were like, and I was like, how is it? Is it nice? And my dad was like, yeah, really good. So yeah, that's where the experimentation started. And yeah, I just loved it. I loved the feeling of just taking me away from everything else that was going on in life. And I feel like you can really do that with food. It's you switch off, like anything bad that's happened in your life doesn't matter, because when you're cooking, it's very therapeutic, and it's I wouldn't say relaxing because it's not.
I was about to say therapeutic to you, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like in the kitchen and I've got the day's woes on top of me as well as the stress of the cooking, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I love it. I love even the prep, peeling spuds or chopping on anything, just mindless activity that I can just crack on with.
Yeah, some prep jobs like that, you can just like really get into it, can't you? I think when you're following a recipe, it's slightly different. It is more stressful. But when you're making something like a spaghetti bolognese, as a chef, you know, you do your standard, cook your onions down in your oil. That part of it is very therapeutic. Then you put your garlic. That part is the cooking that I love. Like just kind of like you're guessing what you're putting in, but you're not, because you kind of know what you're putting in as a chef. If you're doing it at home as a normal cook, then obviously you probably look up a recipe on BBC Good Food or something. But yeah, things like casseroles and stuff like that, just slow cooking. That's the stuff we did at home. So just very nostalgic and nice to eat as well. Dumplings. Oh, suet dumplings.
Yeah.
You don't get those very often anymore, do you?
No, you have to make them now, don't you?
Yeah.
If you want them, you're going to make them.
Yeah.
so obviously the leap then to in a professional kitchen is very different to cooking at home. So how did you get on in your first job?
First job was actually quite nice, actually. So my chef at the time, her name was Kerry, and she was like very big on supporting women coming into the industry, which was very nice. And I started off as a commie there, obviously, as most people do, and worked on the starter. It was called the larder section, and kind of like made my way. I wanted to go onto main course there, but I never made it onto main course at that hotel. But then we actually all were made redundant 2 days before Christmas because the whole place went into administration. And it was a blessing in disguise, because 2 weeks later I found a job which was part of the same group, but it was in Stratford-upon-Avon. And when I moved there, it was like a level up, basically. It was called the Welcome Hotel. It's a massive golf resort and hotel. And it was a great experience. And I kind of like made my way up to CDP then, and it was a bit of a pay rise. That was a bonus as well. And it was a staff accommodation kind of gig. So I'd moved out of home at 18 years old into this staff accommodation. I think we paid £60 a month. That's just insane, isn't it? So, you know, in my head, I was like, right, it's a great time to save up. I'd just passed my driving test, and it was like I kind of like escaped home and had my own little world going on. I moved with my boyfriend at the time to this hotel. He was a sous chef. So, you know, we had a great thing going on with that. And from there, I really discovered that I wanted to like put my head down and really do more fine dining food, but not, we were doing like bar food and, you know, sandwiches and stuff. And I think as a standard that comes with a hotel. And I really disliked that part of it. But I wanted to focus on like, I didn't even know what a Michelin star restaurant was at that stage. I didn't know what Michelin star food was like until I ate at Adam's restaurant. That was my first experience. And I was like, wow. So I went there and I said to the chefs afterwards, I was like, oh, could I come and do a trial shift here or something? Because I really love the food. I sent my CV in to Adam and he said, yeah, sure, come in for a trial shift. I think it was like a couple of weeks later. My head chef at the time, Matt, he was so supportive and he really wanted me to do well for myself. And he was like, yeah, go for it. And I did the trial shift, got the job. I think I was podding peas all day, but it was still good. And I moved to Adam's, and that was my first real Michelin star. And I think, to be fair, that was the start of my career in my head, because that's where I learned a lot, like meat prep, fish prep, stuff that we would like buy stuff in quite a lot of the time in these big hotels. So to get like fresh crabs in and fresh lobsters, that was all new to me. And joints of meat on the bone, you know, things like that. It was just a real learning curve for me.
What first place to start as well?
Yeah.
Incredible place.
It's amazing. And to this day, I always recommend it to people. And I still hear people talk about Adams like it's the best restaurant in Birmingham. And I've eaten at loads of nice restaurants in Birmingham. I do think it's, you know, one of my favourites because it's my style of cooking as well. I like that food. And unfortunately, I didn't get to try the food when Tom Shepherd was working there. But, you know, it's always been great from what I've heard.
It's always up there, you know. There and Simpsons are the two classics, aren't
Yeah.
they? It's like if you want an example of real classic Michelin star, go to Adams and Simpsons.
I love Simpsons.
Yeah,
I think I've been about 4 times.
yeah,
'Cause they-
same actually. It's more places I've been than anywhere else. It was
Yeah.
the first Michelin star restaurant I'd ever been to. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, I've told this story when we did the podcast with Luke, but I got a gift voucher for like, I don't know if it was my 30th or something. Either way, we were like, the voucher was about to expire. I was like, nah, Michelin star's not for me. I'm not going to enjoy it. My wife was a bit the same. And we were like, should we just not bother? Even after we booked, we were like, should we just not bother going? Like, do you really want to go? I was like, nah, not really. And then the day came and we were like, oh, you know, it's a shame to let it go. We might as well do it. It's going to cost us nothing. So let's just go and experience it. And we went and we were just like absolutely blown away. I was like, this wasn't what I expected fine dining to be like. It wasn't as stuffy as I thought it was going to be. There was no tablecloths. There was nobody telling you off because you got your elbows on the table. And the food was unlike anything I'd ever tasted before. Even ingredients where I'd be like, if your mom was asking you, do you want these on your plate? You'd be like, no, I'm not having carrots. Forget that. But like, and then they had a carrot dish was like amazing. And then from there, I was like, oh, I've got to try other places now. And that was my like gateway. That was.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the experience for the first time as well. It's a real eye opener, isn't it? Because straight away I was eating this food at Adams and I was like, I want to know how they made that because I wouldn't know how to make it. And I think as a chef, that's really intriguing. And that's where it kind of like came from. I was like,
Adams
right.
was my first one as well, to be
Really?
honest. Yeah, first Michelin star place I ate at.
How many years ago was that?
I think Tom had just joined.
Right, yeah.
So it was a while ago now.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Well, Adams is great, so.
We got like 2 lives. We got the life before we got into food.
Yeah.
And Michelin stars. And then before that, it was like down and out pubs around Digbuff. You know, that's where you would have found us in Irish
Irish
pubs.
bars, yeah.
As much as I love Michelin star restaurants, I also love like just going to a really good burger place or a really good pizza place, you know? It's not all about eating at fancy restaurants. All the
You
time.
can't eat just at fancy restaurants, to
No.
be honest. Especially missing out on so many good things if
Yeah.
you do. Like,
Yeah, there's some really good places. There's a good burger place in Birmingham. Can't remember what it's called.
we're quite blessed in Birmingham
yeah,
for burger
yeah.
places, to be honest.
We've got-
OPM and Meat Shack.
We've got a great pizza place in Nottingham called Pizza Misu, and they do the really, really good like stone baked pizzas and obviously tiramisu. So, and I love tiramisu. It's like one of my favourite desserts.
Yeah, do you like it really boozy or no booze?
Oh yeah, I like a bit of booze.
I like mine like,
Yeah.
like barely edible for someone that doesn't drink.
Yeah. Well, you've got to get it in somewhere, haven't you? They do a Nutella version. I haven't tried that yet, but that's meant to be good.
Well, that'd be good.
So how long were you at Adams for?
I was at Adams for, I think it was just over a year in total. And do you know what? A year feels like 2 years because you're working very long hours. But I learnt so much within that space of a year. I just think that was the best move that I ever did in my career. And after working there, I moved to the Wilderness. And I think you guys know the Wilderness quite well, don't you?
Yeah,
So it
been
was
there
the
loads.
old Wilderness behind the mall. So on like that, it's like an old cafe. Before.
Yeah, it's before it moved.
Yeah, it was like a pop-up restaurant at the time, and it was great. It was lovely. It was like a team of like 4, 5 chefs, and I think we sat about 24 covers in total. It was just dreamy. Tiny kitchen, probably the space of this booth actually.
What made you want to leave Adams to go to somewhere like that?
I wanted to work somewhere a little bit different, and then Alex at the time was working with lots of like foraged ingredients, and I just felt like I wanted to do something a bit different, and I saw that in Alex's food, and it was a great time. I was still young and I wanted to learn more. So I went there and I loved it. He had the ants got to the tart first. Don't know if you remember that dish.
Yeah.
Having ants on a menu. I'd never tried ants before, but that was quite interesting.
Well, they are, and they're not exactly. They're not what you think they're going to be. They're like a little burst of citrus, aren't they?
Yeah, like they eat sorrel, don't they? So it just tastes like sorrel leaves.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad, really. Just a bit crunchy. Yeah. But I loved it there because it was a bit more relaxed. So it was 4 days a week opposed to 5, which I thought was new to me. And I think a lot of restaurants have started to introduce that, which I think was good. It was still longish days, but quite relaxed, really. Like we all got on like a house on fire. It was like a little family in that kitchen. Like we'd have so many laughs. We'd play music and during prep, and we'd just, everyone in kitchens like will have like a little period of not talking to each other because you're pissed off because so and so didn't order what you wanted to order or whatever. But you go out on a night out on the Saturday and you're like your best mates again. Which I love about the hospitality. It's like you are family because you're spending more time with the people you work than you are at home with your own family. So it's really important to have that foundation, isn't it?
Yeah. I used to work on the railway and we were in a van all day.
Mm.
12-hour days with the same people all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. When I was working at the Wilderness, we that was when I decided that I wanted to enter MasterChef. And Alex was very supportive. I'd said to him that I had an application sent to me by a friend. And I was like, should I enter it? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And then a few weeks later, they called me and they were like, right, Louisa, we want to interview you. Come down to London. I had to do all that. Put some high heels on for the very first time because I wasn't very into like wearing heels. And I'm very sporty, as you can tell with what I'm wearing today. But I do like dressing up every now and then as well. But I go down to London with my high heels on, go to this interview, absolutely bricking it. They asked me questions that I had no idea of the answer to because I'd never done anything like that before, but it was a competition in my head. So I just thought, right, answer it as you would if it was just a competition without the cameras, just try and like be yourself. And then I got a call a few weeks later to say that I was going to go on, and honestly, I felt sick. I was like, oh my goodness. Because I think I was 20, 21 at the time. And I was like, right, well, I don't actually know that much. I'm not going in here like being cocky, like thinking I know everything. I'm just going to go in with the mindset that I'm going to accept if I make a mistake, but hopefully this is going to be like a point of my career that's going to make or break me. So, and I think it was a massive risk to take because I think it could have gone one way or the other. I've like some people go on to MasterChef and, they have a skills test and it goes terribly. Mine didn't go particularly well, but it could go really bad, and that really is a breaking point of their career, which I feel.
What was it?
I had to cook pigeon. So I had a whole pigeon and I had to cook it with a choice of my garnish from the bench. And I had 20 minutes to do it. So I, in my head, was like, oh my gosh, I can't cook a pigeon in 20 minutes. So I started taking the breasts off and just what I would have done maybe in that like a safe situation. So I took the breasts off and I cooked them and I used the bones to make a sauce. And I think Marcus and Monica could see like the, where I was going and what I was doing. And they appreciated that from a chef point of view. But I overcooked my pigeon breast, which I was devastated about. I remember going into the interview room afterwards and going, oh, I can't believe I overcooked my pigeon, man. And that's exactly what I said because my dad takes the mick out of me all the time and keeps telling me, I can't believe I overcooked my pigeon, man. I don't know why I said man afterwards. But it was a lesson learned. And it's like, you have to just persevere, don't you, in this industry? Like people make mistakes all the time and it's all about how you come back. So going into the signature round and trying to make sure I absolutely smashed that was super important. And that I feel like I don't know how I made it through the whole show. Like, do you know when do you ever feel like you just like blagging life?
Yeah.
Every day.
We haven't interviewed anyone that hasn't said the same thing.
Yeah, I do. Like, I think there's this like fear and anxiety around like being a human and being successful. But I feel like we all just blag things sometimes. Like that's normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's when you become a parent and you just all of a sudden like any kind of resentment you had for your parents, just the littlest bits for little things, it all goes away because you think, oh, my parents were just blagging it. They were doing the best they could with the knowledge they had, and now I'm doing exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, now we've got Google as well, so that's sort of...
It's a bit easier now.
We can read books and watch YouTube videos at it, but like our parents, they had nothing, did they? They just did the best they could, and that's kind of like life. You just you always think there's going to be some kind of switch where you're like, I'm an adult now. I'm going to do life.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. You still feel like a kid, but like older, like a little bit wiser.
In my head, I still feel 18.
Yeah.
Like
everybody does.
I don't feel like an adult. It's just, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, you just sort of turn around one day and you're like, oh, shit, I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
So then a TV show makes that 10 times worse.
Yeah. So there's things like they treat you like really well actually on MasterChef. You'd have this like little communal room where you'd all sit in between, interviews and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, would you like a can of Coke or coffee? Can I get you anything, like a packet of crisps? And it's like draw of crisps, like you can just help yourself. I felt like, oh, this is nice. I wasn't used to that. It was just quite like I felt like I was being treated like a celebrity, but I didn't want to take the mick and be like, yeah, can I have a cappuccino please with 2 sugars? Like it was just like, it was different. And the guys that I was on with as well, they were all really lovely. Craig especially, he won that year, and he was working for Marcus for the past 5 or 6 years, and he's absolutely smashed it. He's helped Marcus write his book. I think he did most of it actually, and I don't know what he's doing now, but I think he's moving on to bigger and better things. But yeah, he's an incredible inspiration. Like same age, we've still stayed in contact since MasterChef. So that was quite nice, and the whole experience was great. Nerve-wracking. Yeah. Like if you'd met me 6-7 years ago, you wouldn't have me in front of a microphone and a camera. Oh, I was such an anxious person.
So why would you want to do the TV show if you were that anxious?
I kind of just had to think like what was best for my career at the time. And I was always someone where if I had committed to something, I would never back out. And I felt like if I'd sent this application form off and said that I'm doing it, there was no way that I would back out, because I'm just like that. So I thought, why not? It's a risk, and a risk worth taking. And I'm glad I did it because it's paid off. I've got some recognition as a chef, and it's given me opportunities that I would never have had before. I wouldn't have been sitting around the table with you guys. I would have been a bit of a shadow, I would have thought, and probably have stuck working in restaurants that I absolutely hated working in. And I wouldn't have been able to start my own private dining business. So yeah, it's opened a lot of doors.
Well, that show's helped so many people as well. Well, they've done well on it anyway.
Yeah.
We've had 2 former winners on. Yeah. 3 other people that have been on it or something like that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Stu was on it, wasn't he? So,
yeah, Stu won it.
So I worked with Stu at the Wilderness briefly, and then he went on to do it. I think it was the year after me.
But just to get to the final is a phenomenal achievement. Like the amount of people who enter and what it takes to get there.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I was really proud of it. Like to get to the finals.
I think you're in a position to pick your next job if you get to the final, aren't you? Especially if you impress people on the way.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'd lived a lot of my chef career thinking I have to work at this restaurant because I want it on my CV, because I want it to look good, and I kept worrying about what my CV looked like, and that was a real kind of pressure point. And after MasterChef, or not straight away after MasterChef, but a little while after MasterChef, I realised I'd done something really great here, and I've got like an online CV that people can see. They see my personality, they've seen how I can cook under pressure, and people believed in me a bit more. So that was quite nice, because I think there is a real kind of fear of chefs working somewhere and not working there for at least 2 years, and then it looking bad on them because they might think that another chef might not employ them. And I think that's a really unspoken thing, really, because I had that feeling when I moved to Nottingham to work at Sat Baines, and that was after working with Alex at the Wilderness. And the reason I left the Wilderness was because, and I had a chat with Alex, and I was like, right, I think I want to work at a 2-star. And I went down to, so I had 2 restaurants in my head that I wanted to work at. One was Le Manoir and one was Sat Baines. And two very different styles of food. So I did a trial shift at Le Manoir, and I had a trial shift. Well, it actually wasn't a trial shift at Sat Baines. I said to Sat and said, I really love your food. I'd love to, do a stage. And that's in my head what I had. But I thought if a job comes from it at the end, amazing. So I did the trial shift at Le Manoir, and that was really cool. And I thought, right, I'd quite like to work here. Massive establishment, like incredible place to work if you're 16, 17 years old and you're starting out in the industry. Bearing in mind at this point, I think I was 22, and I think if I'd gone a bit earlier, I probably would have wanted to work there. And I think it was a bit further away from everything. Nottingham's still in the Midlands, only an hour away from Birmingham. So I thought, why not? Let's try Sat Baines. So I went and worked there for a week as a stage. And they put me on the garnish section, and I chopped the end of my finger off on the second day. Luckily, QMC was only up the road. So the sous chef at the time, he got me in the car, took me up to QMC, and left me. I went back to Sat Baines, and I didn't know anything about Nottingham. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know. And I cried my eyes out in the middle of the hospital. And the pain wasn't that bad. It was more the case I was upset because I had really made an idiot out of myself, and I'd never cut my finger like that before. I'd really taken off quite a bit, and it's fine now. It's just that I took the nail off, so the nail grew back eventually. But I was like, I've really messed things up here because I've not set a good, impression. I've been clumsy, and there's nothing worse than seeing a chef cut their finger because you just think, oh God, the reliability. And I got sorted in hospital, bandaged up. And then I was like, right, I'm going to do the crazy thing. And I'm going to be like, right, can I come back? Because I've got 3 days left at this restaurant. And I really wanted to show that I was a hard worker, that I was committed. And I knew that nothing was going to necessarily come from it. But I thought if you show that dedication and passion, then maybe that will show something. So I did what I could in those 3 days. On the last day, Sat said to me, Louisa, can you cook us a 2-course meal? So I think I had 2 hours to do it. I can't remember exactly, but I did a main course and a dessert. And I thought, oh, this is what they usually do when they're, having someone in to give them a job. Emma, a lady that worked there at the time, she was like, oh, they might be trying to give you a job. And I was like, oh, right, okay. Well, I got one hand working really, but I gave it my best shot. And on the last day, Sat pulled me into the office and was like, and it was John as well, John and Sat. And they were like, we're really impressed by your 2 courses. You should be really proud of yourself. And I was like, oh my goodness, this meant so much to me at the time because I'd always wanted to work at a 2-star, and I'd got a two Michelin star chef saying that he really enjoyed eating my food. I was bricking it. And I was like, right. And I've cut my finger, and I've gone back, and I've worked there for 5 days. And I was like, sure, whatever the outcome is, I'm proud of myself. They offered me a job. So I had to choose between Sat Baines and Le Manoir.
Wow, what a choice.
What did you cook for Sat?
I can't remember exactly what I cooked. I remember cooking a chicken main course. I think I snazzed it up with some crispy chicken skin. I think that's what did it, I did a chicken main course, and I'm sure I did like a chicken sauce or something like that with it. And then dessert, I did a take on my banana and yuzu dessert that I did on MasterChef. I thought, let's give it a go, because they're interesting flavour combinations, but I kind of understood Sat's style of cooking from working with him that week. So I tried to make it more relevant to his style. So yeah, I did that, and they enjoyed it, and that was quite nice to get that feedback from them. And then say to me at the end of the week, oh, would you like a job? We've got a position available. And I was like, wow, didn't expect that. And yeah, I chose to work at Sat Baines because I liked that style of cooking more, and it was more convenient in terms of location and stuff. And the team was smaller, so I felt that was better because having a smaller team of chefs, I think there's more room to kind of move around on sections. And Le Manoir is very much you work on one section for 6 months and then you get moved to the next section. So I was a bit worried about not learning as much as I could within the time that I had. So I started off on the garnish section in Sat Baines, which is like a sink or swim situation. But yeah, it was good.
When you were in the hospital and you said you were crying, was there any part of you that thought, I'm just going to go back home?
Yeah, I did think that actually. I was like, this is probably it.
Because no one would have blamed you. I mean, I would have. I would
Yeah.
have been gone. I'd be like, I've stopped this.
Part of me
I'm
did.
going.
And, you know, I had this like sudden headache that came on and I was crying. I was mentally drained. I was sleeping at my friend's house in Nottingham at the time and sharing a bed with her for the week. So wasn't exactly sleeping very well that week either. But I remember ringing her and saying, oh, I've cut my finger. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to work. In my head, I had that. That's just the sort of person I am. I do stupid things like that sometimes. Sometimes it's not a great idea, but I think in that situation, it, you know, worked out because I was offered a job and they saw me for who I am, who I really am, the dedication and the passion that I put into what I do. I felt like sometimes as a chef, you're expected to, if you cut yourself, just wrap it up and put a blue glove on, which is what I actually almost did. And then, because I played it down, I was like, oh, John, I've just nipped off the end of my finger. And I showed him and he's like, because he's a bit, I didn't realise, but he's a bit squeamish.
Right.
And he's like, oh, go over to the sous chef. I think you need to go to hospital. And, you know, bearing in mind, John, he's a very well put together man. And he saw my finger and he was like, oh, God, Louisa, what have you done? And yeah, and I was just willing to wrap it up and put a blue glove on. But then I'm glad I didn't because it probably would have got infected. And yeah, when I went to the hospital, the nurse, she was very mean to me. She didn't like me at all because I think it was only a little cut in her head, and I was crying, I was emotional, but mainly because I was like, I've messed everything up. What am I doing? And she was like, right, I've got to clean it. And she got this like, I don't know, wipey, spongy thing and sprayed this like orange stuff on it and properly like wiped it like that. And I was like, I was screaming the hospital down. I was so dramatic. And there was people with like, you know, worse problems than me. And I had this cut on my finger. So pathetic. But yeah, it really hits you mentally, doesn't it? When when you're ill and everything gets on top of you. Like that's kind of like the situation it was, but it was good. It paid off in the end, right?
Do you think there's something that all successful chefs have? Is that thing that made you want to just go back and do it again, even though it would have been easier to go home?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to have that, like, in you. Like, it's naturally that natural passion and drive to keep trying and persevering is something you've got to have in the kitchen, because it's quite easy to have a bad day and never go back to the kitchen and give up. Giving up's easier than carrying on, isn't it? But it's not always best to take the easy option.
But then saying that, if you work in an awful environment, get the hell out and go somewhere good, because there's lots of good places to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely agree with you on that, because a lot of people just tend to work in places that they hate, get mentally drained to the point of where they think it's normal, and you know they'll have some really bad experiences from it. And I've had some experiences in kitchens, and I've also never known when I should leave, because I've always thought, I need this on my CV, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get a job here. And this is what we were talking about earlier. And then I was working at Sat Baines and I was having a bit of a hard time with my mental health there. And I was in a new city. I had one friend that I knew of, but we didn't see each other a lot. And I was working with a group of chefs, all men, apart from one lady. And we got on like a house on fire. And we'd all, as chefs, go out on a Saturday night and have drinks together. But we work in crazy hours. And when you're working crazy hours, you say you're starting at 7 a.m, you're prepping to get lunch service done. Then you're making sure you're ready for dinner service. You don't always get a break. If you haven't got all your prep done, you're probably not, out of your own choice, you're not going to take a break because you're going to get bollocked if you're not ready for service. Or you're out on your break picking wild garlic or something crazy. That was just the standard. And then you'd get to 1 a.m, like, mate, you're like a zombie. You're like a different person. You've just cleaned down. You've like polished all the pans, like proper clean down. You take everything off the shelf, you take everything out the fridges, you're scrubbing down the walls, you're scrubbing down the stovetop, and you're putting every inch of energy that you have physically left. And then to finish at 1 a.m and know that you're coming back again at 7 a.m the next day. Oh, it's hard. It really is hard. And to do that over and over and over again, something's going to get to you at some point, and you don't speak about it. You don't, back then, I don't think mental health was spoken about much at all. You just kind of got on with it. Had I have known of, the Burnt Chef project, let's say, for example, at the time, maybe I would have actually used their services, because I think speaking to someone outside of my workplace at the time would have actually really helped me in that situation, because I didn't know what was wrong and what was right. I just thought, I'm working really hard to try and get to the best place in my career, and this is what I've got to do. I've just got to accept it. And it was so hard. I remember because I was in a shared house at the time. So I got along with my housemates, but we worked different hours. They worked 9 to 5. I was coming in at 1, 2 in the morning. And I just remember sometimes coming home and just crying myself to sleep. And I didn't realise until after it happened so many times. And my boyfriend at the time was living in China, working in China. And we, because of the time difference, actually, when I got home, I could speak to him briefly. And then we'd miss each other again for another 24 hours. And it was just, a bit weird.
Wow.
And I struggled. I really struggled. And it got to a point where I think something just happened that I wasn't okay with. And I thought, I'm going to stick up for myself here. And I don't think it went down very well, to be fair. But I had that confidence because I'd spoken to a couple of people and they were like, "That Louisa, that's not okay." I think I'd spoken to my mum about it, and I think I'd spoken to my boyfriend at the time, and just needed a bit of clarification that I wasn't being crazy, and that this next step that I needed to take was a big step, and it was a massive decision to leave somewhere that you're learning loads, you like working there, but you need to make that decision based on your own mental health. And I'd never done that before. I'd never left somewhere to benefit my own mental health, and it was a risk. And I didn't have a job to go into. I was like, right, this is scary. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I left Sat Baines on that basis that I had, I was struggling. I really was. And I think it's really important to talk about that, because actually, if anyone feels like they're struggling, talk to someone, or B, not every job is for everyone. It doesn't fit everyone's type, personality.
No, there'd have been people there that loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah. And I did love it for part, there was part that I loved it. And there's no particular reason why I didn't, well, there are, but we don't have to talk about them bits. It's more of a case of I was looking out for myself, and I felt the need to step out of that. And I'm so glad, and that's probably the proudest moment of my life. I put aside MasterChef and Great British Menu. That one decision is the best decision that I've made, because when I left there, I became a different person. I started to get my happiness back, and I realised what happiness was. And because I was less tired and I wasn't spending all my days off sleeping, I was starting to get a bit of energy back. And then I decided to start my own business. I had this fire in my belly and desire and passion, and I was like, right, why don't I? Look, I've worked for chefs here and there. Why don't I work for myself? I can set my own standards. I can hopefully eventually start hiring staff members and treat them how I would really love to have been treated in the past. And that was always my kind of ambition and goal. So, and I never really thought that I would have my own business ever. I never really wanted my own restaurant, because the restaurants I had worked in, I'd seen everything, seen how it goes. I thought something a bit different. So I put a post out on my Twitter, and I said something along the lines of, who fancies just a steak night I'll come and cook for you. And I had a lady in Birmingham who's now a very good friend of mine. I went to Cray's restaurant last night with her, actually, Suki.
nice.
And she was like, Louisa, we love watching your MasterChef. We'd love for you to come and cook for us. This was my first private chef gig. And I did it and I just loved it. And I was nervous and I was anxious and all of those things. But when I'd left that, I was like, oh my God, I can make a business out of this. And there was so many there was like logistics that I had to figure out to get it right. But that's taken me about 6 years to get it to where it is now. And I've worked for myself for the past 6.5 years. And it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And it's all come off the back of realizing, you know, do something for you. Don't get me wrong, you do have to work like to earn your respect, and you need to get experience. You can't just, and I know that I still have loads more to learn. I think as a chef, you never stop learning, really, do you? So, yeah. Oh, it's giving me the shivers. I've not actually talked to many people about that. So it brings back lots of memories.
Did you have any help when you were setting up by yourself?
No.
It's just all yourself.
Yeah, it was quite scary. So I had no kitchen at the time. And then not long after, lockdown happened. So I started doing private gigs, going to clients' houses and doing the food at their house. And then I needed to figure out a way to do it where I can have my own kitchen and prep and do like longer menus and stuff like that. So eventually I got there, but we had lockdown. So I was self-employed. I didn't know what to do, as everyone. Like, it was just a bit of a rubbish time. And I reached out to a local kitchen who were doing corporate events, and they obviously had stopped doing corporate events because it was locked down, and took over their kitchen and started doing delivery meals. So I did like 3-course deliveries, sending them out to local Nottingham people, and it blew up. Everyone loved it. I think a lot of chefs did it, and then it started off really basic, you know, with like pasta and focaccia and dessert, like old school sprinkle cake and just things like that. And then from there, it developed into a full-time, proper, like, I went nationwide with it and everything. It was crazy. Like the business aspect from it, I learned so much about business, and it was, insane.
What was it that made you stay in Nottingham after working for SAT?
I made friends here, and my client base, like from lockdown especially, was massive, and I felt really welcomed and wanted, and I love it here. Like, I love Birmingham, and I come back to Birmingham quite a lot. But I just, you know, when you just feel like this is you. And the thing I love about Nottingham is that you've got the city vibe, but you've also got the countryside, and you've got a bit of both worlds. And the people in Birmingham, the people that I know are lovely, but I seem to attract like really nice people. I've only had like a couple of dinner parties where I've had clicky fingers and demanding customers. Every other customer is so nice. You get to their house, like, can I get you a drink? Would you like a glass of champagne? I'm like, no, I'm driving. I just get really lucky. I don't know. Maybe it's my personality that attracts people, like, because obviously what I do, people buy into my service for my personality as well as my food, which I think is quite nice and interesting. Whereas if you go to a restaurant, most people who like really know what they're doing and talking about, they will invest in the chef and their food. But most people just go to a restaurant to eat food, like not necessarily for the chef. So I think that's quite nice, because like people put trust into me to coming into their home, and you know, they'll just leave me to it. And the fact that someone trusts you to do that is quite nice.
How does it work? Can they just tell you what they want, or do you give them a menu and say, right, I can do this, this, and this, and this, or is it?
It's quite interesting, actually. The whole dinner part, like, not a lot of people know how this works, but the way I've got it structured now is that someone would send an inquiry through, and I would send them a variety of different menus that they could go for, or we could make something really bespoke, which is different to going to a restaurant, because if someone doesn't like, you know, mushrooms, coriander, these are like the top two, like I don't know. coriander. Do you guys like coriander?
I love
it,
coriander. Yeah,
I love
mad
it.
for it.
But there's something genetically, isn't
It's
there?
a
Yeah,
it's a
there's something
chemical reaction. I
genetically,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? There's something in it
Yeah.
that some people can't stand the taste of.
No, and I love it, and I love cooking with it too. But you know, dietary requirements I can cater to, because if I make a menu, I can work my way around those. And sometimes it's just a case of switching something out for that one person. But that's how the menus work. And then I would prep it here in my kitchen. Obviously, any meat or fish I would cook there, as you would in a restaurant. You set for service. I get to them, set for service. I would set up table. I have Becca now who helps me, and sometimes Victoria. They would set the table. I've got my own crockery, cutlery, right, menus. I print them off on my little printer, and I cut them out myself. Really amateur, but like they look the part. It's just funny, the things that happen behind the scenes, and you get there and it's all this like professional setup. You take over the kitchen, you know, you give it a good clean down, make sure it's all the sides, like get rid of the toaster, get rid of the kettle. You've got maximum side surface to work on. Cooking meats at certain time, like I'd send the fish course and make sure I'd cooked my lamb and it's resting, ready for the next course. So you have to really get your timings right with that. But we serve all the food to the table, explain to the guests what they've got, how we made it. Sometimes we go into details about who our suppliers are, why we did this dish and stuff like that. And sometimes it can be quite open plan as well. So you're there and they can see what's going on. But it's a really cool experience, actually. It's like a memorable experience, really. Sometimes you'll have 6 people sitting around a table. Sometimes you'll have 12, sometimes 20. It's different every time. But yeah, I love it. And it's such a buzz. Like the dinner party service is the best. It's enjoyable. Every minute of it is enjoyable. And I don't go home crying. I go home smiling and
energy.
rush of adrenaline, and I can't sleep until about 2 a.m.
I suppose the people you're serving, they all know each other and they're all there for a good time
Yeah.
anyway. Like,
Yeah.
go around your friend's house for dinner. And
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's amazing. And every dinner party is different. I travel to different houses, different people, different backgrounds, and I love and hate people, right? So I love finding out new things about people, and I love that everyone's different, and yeah, I love that. But I also hate people. I like recharging on my own, and then yeah, I get socially drained very quickly and easily, so I need that time to get back up. But what I love about it is there's a story for every dinner party. And quite recently, one of the craziest things that happened to me was I was driving to a dinner party, and I've got my car. It's just a car. And, I'll pack all my cool boxes into my car and my crates and everything. It's quite a heavy load. And I'm driving to this dinner party. It's only half an hour away, really easy. And there's an accident. I'm not in the accident, but I'm a car behind the accident. A bike's got hit into the air, and this guy's like landed right next. It was an awful scene, and it became a crime scene, and I had to stay there, and I was stuck in this crime scene. Obviously, I cared very much about this gentleman that had been hit off his bike, and we had to wait for the ambulances and stuff. But because nobody saw what happened, because he'd obviously been hit by another car that was in front, we all had to stay. We couldn't move our cars. So I was there for about half an hour at this point, and I was late to the dinner party, and I was on the phone to Becca, who was helping me. I was like, Becca, I'm going to be late. I'm in a crime scene. I don't know what to do. And she's like, oh, it's okay. They're very relaxed. I've cooked for a couple of these guys before. Just they're reassuring her and saying that it's fine. Don't worry. You do you. I'm like, well, it would do me. I'd be shipping it all down and carrying it all to the house at this point. But it gets to about an hour, and I'm like, right, okay, I've got all of this dinner party prep. This is like 2-3 days of my work. If I need to do this dinner party, this is my income. I rely on this to pay the bills. And I'd be devastated. A whole service worth of food just gone to waste. I was like, I need to think of a solution here. Like, I know I'm stuck in this crime scene. I need to do something. So I spoke to one of the police officers. I was like, right, I've got a situation. Situation is, I've got a load of food in here. I need to be at this house. It's literally 5 minutes down the road, but I can't get past this crime scene. I need to get there. that mission. The mission is, can you help me? Like, and she was like, right, let me speak to my officer and see what we can do. And I was like, how long do I need to wait here? She was like, it could be 2, it could be 3 hours. I was like, right, okay. Anyway, she goes, right, we've got a solution. We're going to get a police van to come and pick you up and your kit, and we're going to escort you to this dinner party. Anyway, I thought, in my head, right, this police riot van turns up, and I'm like, right, these are really handsome like blokes are going to come out and they're going to get all the kit, and it's going to be amazing. It was pretty cool, but it was just 3 older chaps, and they were still very lovely. But they helped me get all of my kit into the car. It was a police riot van, so it was all like, it's got seats on the inside, so all of my kit was kind of balancing on seats on the floor, and I was sat on a seat kind of like holding my food prep, making sure it wasn't falling down. 5 minutes, I mean, didn't put the blues and twos on, but 5 minutes and we were there, pulled up outside this dinner party house. All of the customers came outside. They were like, what an entrance.
Amazing.
It was so cool. And then I left my keys with the police officer. They were like, you're going to get a call in about an hour, 2 hours to come pick your car up mid-service. And I was like, look, mate, is there anything you can do? Because I don't think I can get out of service. I'll probably be roasting off a bit of sirloin at that point, and I really need to get my timings right with it. Is there any way that I can leave my keys with you and perhaps drop it to me? Anyway, this police officer, very nice police officer, actually, mind you, and he drops it off mid-service. There's a knock at the door. He's like, right, I've got your car outside. And I was like, oh, thank you, Mr. Policeman. That was like a story and a half. And I cooked for them the other day, and they were like, oh, you remember us, the police van escort people? So there's always a story. There's loads of stories, and I love that.
Did you know much about private chefing, like when you were working in restaurants or when you were going through catering college?
Unheard of. Yeah. It was unheard of. And I didn't even know it was an option. So now I'm doing it. I think it's quite nice to spread this message that if you're working somewhere you don't particularly think it's for you, there's always an option. Some people enjoy baking and go and work at a bakery, and that's fine. Some people like working in sandwich shops. Hospitality is so broad. There's so many different areas that you can go into, but private dining wasn't one that I thought was ever going to be my career. And it's lovely because you get a bit of the best of both worlds. You know, you have to be good at front of house as well as back of house because you have to be good with people. And bearing in mind, I wasn't always good with people, but you have to learn to small talk.
But even people who are we sometimes get students at Birmingham College of Food who listen to this podcast. Even to them, they should consider maybe looking at something like this. I mean, you could go and work for someone like yourself, get experience. We have had a few like private chefs on. Angelina done a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is options out there if you look for them. But obviously, it's not something you really get told about.
No, it's quite competitive as well. Like, because there's not many of us. So if you're in a city, like if you're in Nottingham and there's another private chef, it can be quite competitive. But I know a couple of other chefs that do it in Nottingham, and I think it's a good idea to try and like share work, because sometimes I'll have gigs come in that I can't do because I've already got a booking, and I'll try and send, the customer will be like, oh, can you recommend anyone else? And I'll try and send them to someone else, because what bad can come from it? You're just helping someone else out, and hopefully that will pay off further down the line. They'll do the same for you. But private chefing is great. I think you do need to know your stuff before you start doing it. So definitely get some experience somewhere, whether that's in a restaurant or, like you say, working for someone who does private dining to kind of get an insight of how it works. Then, yeah, you definitely have to. You can't just start a private chef business like on a whim.
Never cooked before.
No, I mean, it could be quite cool actually. Like, I don't know, like as long as you're honest about it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm serving food at good rates here. Like, then yeah, why not? I'd book them. If a college student started their own private dining business and they had all the official things in place, and they wanted to start out somewhere, but they were going to charge, I don't know, 40 quid a head, and I think that'd be quite a fun memory. Imagine having someone.
You've got social media now, so you could put your dishes out there. People can see what you're going to be serving.
Yeah.
And
It's powerful.
Like, yeah, let's do that.
It's really powerful. And that's where a lot of business comes from as well. Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't really use Twitter much. Do you guys use Twitter?
I love Twitter.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's something about the conversation. You feel like you're getting someone back. Whereas with Instagram, sometimes you can feel like you're screaming into the abyss. But
Yeah.
Twitter, I think it depends on the community that you build on Twitter, and it takes a lot more work. Like, you can't just drop a little thing on there and then run. You've got to say, right, I'm going to have an hour on Twitter now, and I'm going to chat to real people. I'm going to build it like that.
First thing I do when I want to look at a restaurant that I want to go to, I'll go onto Instagram and look at their Instagram page and look at the pictures. So I do think that having a social media is important, but there's so much pressure to post as a business. Do you guys have the same kind of thing? Like, obviously, like, there's that anxiety. I haven't posted in a month. Oh gosh, I need to do something soon.
We do get to a stage, like, if I look at the stories and there's nothing on our stories, I'm like, I'll look again an hour later, see if Liam's put anything on. And if he hasn't put anything on, I'll start itching. I'm like, right, we've got to put something on the stories.
Yeah.
It's a shame it has to be like that, and it's all because of the algorithm. Like,
Yeah.
it would be nice if it was just, if we had genuinely something good to share, let's just share it at whatever time and whatever, instead of trying to search for the best time, the best hashtags to use, and whether hashtags are even relevant now, I don't know.
God knows.
It should be a fun place, but it's really not,
Yeah.
because they've turned it into a business, and I understand it has to make money, but
I mean, luckily with Birmingham, there's so much to post about. There's very rarely a time where there's no news.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
always something, or someone's doing something great, or
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does work out quite well for us, to be honest.
It's become a bit addictive though, hasn't it? Like, now rather than it being businesses promoting, it's more about watching videos that give you a hit of dopamine, and it's really bad. So I try to stay off of social media for that reason, because I see myself getting like, I'll be scrolling and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get to sleep. I'm like wide awake at like 3 a.m. sometimes, because obviously I've got back from work at 1. Takes a while to switch off, but if you're there scrolling on your phone, it's quite hard, isn't it, to switch off? But businesses lose out because there's people making, funny videos, and people more interested in watching those than watching someone's reel with pictures of food on it these days.
look, what's the restaurant in London? Fallow, is it? Fallow.
I saw
They're doing really
this.
well on social
The
media.
review. Did you see the review that someone put up?
I wouldn't even have heard of Fallow if it wasn't for their social media.
Yeah.
Right, and it's made me want to go there, especially their YouTube. But no, what was the review?
Someone, I think a food blogger put a review up a couple of days ago, which really annoyed me actually, because they said something bad about Fallow. And I was like, do you know what? Actually, from a chef point of view, I would go there now, even if that, because I know what it's like. People have bad days in kitchens. They went on a bank holiday and they put up a terrible review. And I was livid, because I think I hate TripAdvisor, and I hate people that slate restaurants, because give people a chance, because people do have bad days. Like, it happens. Yeah. I've had bad days, and I've thought, oh, I'm so glad that I've got understanding customers today, because that was really tough. And then you just try and do better the next time. Or if something's wrong, go and speak to the staff member and sort it out, because I'm sure they would, if you're not happy with something, they would try and resolve it.
Yeah, we've had that so much for people on Bad TripAdvisor. Why are you telling the computer world?
Yeah.
Why are you telling your phone and typing it in? Why don't you tell the people that are there?
Yeah.
It's food so subjective as well. So whatever we really like, it just so happens we kind of like the same stuff. But somebody else might think it's terrible.
Yeah.
People, I get asked all the time at work in construction, like, what, where should we go and eat? And I know I'm not going to recommend Simpsons or Adams, because that's not their bag. They'll get there and probably hate it.
Yeah.
So you gotta. It's all about personal preference and stuff like that. So to air your opinion, which is negative, as gospel, and everyone should listen to that.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't understand it. It's why we've always, if we didn't like somewhere, we might have a word with the people who own it if we know them. If not, we just say nothing.
You won't hear anything about it.
No.
Yeah. That's the best way to do it. If I didn't enjoy something, I just either wouldn't go back or I wouldn't speak about it. And I think when if people were speaking about it, at least it's genuine, and they're actually, they're going out of their way to post about it and speak about it. So it must be good. So, why say bad things? The industry is struggling so much already.
Yeah.
And you've got influencers that have got about 3,000 followers that obviously want more followers, thinking that's going to happen from putting this bad review up.
But that's the
so
problem with
damaging.
social media as well, is that it rewards negativity.
Just kind of help them out, yeah.
I know with this podcast, we could make, with not often, but there's been times where there's been like someone's gone on a rant or they've gone on about this, and we could make a little clip of that and just put that up. Taking an hour and a half, 2-hour conversation, turn it into a 30-second negative rant, and we would get way more followers, and you would get more views than any. But I'm not interested in that. I know we'd get rewarded for it, but at what cost? I hate that it is like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what catches people, doesn't it? You have to try and do what reels people in. And it's fake sometimes.
Or you can go on Great British Menu and
Or you can do that.
get 1,000 new followers.
Yeah. That's
How
cool.
was that?
Yeah, that was, oh gosh. Do you know what? I'd always watch Great British Menu, and I thought, these chefs are incredible. They've all got their own restaurants. They're all Michelin star chefs. I used to watch it back in the day when Lisa Allen was on, and Lisa Allen and Angela Hartnett are two of my favourite chefs, because as a woman in the industry, I didn't have many female influencers to look up to, and those two people in particular, I remember reading articles about them and seeing their cooking, and this was before social media was really a thing, so I really loved them as people, but they come across really well. And, they're tough cookies as well. And I feel like you need someone to look up to that's also a tough cookie, because it's quite a demanding and a hard place to be, the industry. And I think you're kind of like a bit of a gangster, aren't you, once you're in the chef industry? You kind of just, you get through it and you get the respect that in
There's
due
sort
course.
of a private members club vibe to it.
Yeah.
Because we sort of on the precipice. I'm not even going to try saying that word.
We're on
That
the
word don't work.
outskirts of
We're on the
it, yeah.
outskirts of that.
When you're in the hospitality, and this is never spoken about, it's such a great fit. You're part of one massive family. Last night when I went to Craze, I was speaking to the staff, and I was like, "Oh, what you guys been up to? You got passing fancies across the road? Bet you go there, Lowe's, don't you?" And it was just a nice little bit of chit chat. And I was like, what time do they close in? Is it 12? And they were like, yeah. Oh, so do you go Albert Slosh after then? It's like, hey, I know what you go. Do you know what? It's like, you're just having a nice chat. And everyone's a bit silly. And I feel like everyone's quite open-minded as well. Respectfully, you feel welcomed. It's a community, isn't it? And you can't find that in many other places. No. What's it like in construction? Is it quite similar?
It's not the same. I've worked in kitchens as well, and there's something about hospitality. I think it's because it's so hard all the time, especially service. You build a connection with each other, but on site, you don't really get that. I mean, you become mates, but I don't know if you chat outside of work. Whereas construction, kitchens, you were working hard. You go out together afterwards. You'd have drinks afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Construction, we all live all over the place, and
yeah,
it's not the same. Hospitality has something different. I've always said we should bring back national conscription, but not to the army, into hospitality. Everyone should work for at least a year in hospitality just to experience it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because I think it builds a level of empathy in everyone, a level of hard work. It's just there's nothing else like it. I don't think
it's very you have to have a lot of discipline to work in hospitality, especially as a chef. You have to turn up on time. You have to make sure your knives are sharp. You need to be looking sharp, because if you don't look like the part, then nobody's going to want to eat your food. If your chef whites aren't ironed, and you've not personally, I like to iron my chef whites, because if I feel a bit uncomfortable going into someone's house, with dirty chef whites on or creased chef whites and not looking the part, because you're cooking food that you want people to eat. So you're going to judge someone by the way they look. And if you can make yourself look presentable, and that takes discipline to do that. I have this thing, so I'll be rushing around on a prep day. I've got loads to do, but I always make sure I iron my chef whites. It's something that's stuck into me. I don't know if that's from working in high-end establishments where that is drilled into you, but it's like being in the military. You have to have that passion and discipline.
it's probably what triggers you to get into the game. No, that's your thing, right? I'm ready. I know I've got my chef whites ironed. I look the part. I'm good. You take it into service with you then.
Fail to prepare to fail.
So you're putting your armour on, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was going off subject a bit there. We were talking about Great British Menu.
Oh yeah. Did they ask you?
Yeah, which I was so shocked about, because I'd always had it in my head, and this is imposter syndrome all over again, that private chefs don't go on Great British Menu. It's unheard of. You have to have your own restaurant. So yes, they got in contact with me and had to go through some interview processes. And then there I was in the Great British Menu kitchen. And do you know what? It was so hard. The preparation for it in advance is the hardest part, because you have to do something completely new. So you have to fit a brief that you don't find out until a certain date. So you have a certain amount of time to try and sort that brief out. But as much as I know that I can cook, obviously, A, cooking under pressure is different, and B, cooking to a brief is something that you have to get right before you're even on the show. So we had the theme of the Olympics, and the brief was quite specific. It was to celebrate athletes from past and present, but for the Olympics in 2024, which is in Paris this year. So there's so many like different routes you could go down. You know, you've got Paris as a theme, you've got athletes that you could choose from maybe your region, or athletes that are well known. And I chose to celebrate 2 athletes from Nottingham, Richard Whitehead and Emily Campbell. But it's quite hard putting an inspiration as a person into a dish, because if I chose their favourite food, for example, like how do I make that make sense to everyone else? Nobody else knows what their favourite food is. And then you could go down the route of making, you know, gold medals, the obvious things that everyone can physically relate to the Olympics. But then I thought, everyone's going to do that. And I don't want to be everyone. I wanted to try and do something different. And I did relatively well, better than what I thought I would, because I struggled. I really struggled getting the brief. I went down so many rabbit holes trying to make this work. And even to the last day before I went to film on Great British Menu for the first time, I was practicing my twill recipe. And I was like, this is too sweet. It's not right. But I needed to make it black, and it needs to be round, and it needs to look like a vinyl record. So it was the only thing that I could do, and I just didn't have time to fix it. But I knew that was going to be the one thing that would be in the feedback. So, like, had I have gone on, or would I have will I go on again? That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, and I would know what to kind of do and prepare in advance, and I'd need to get my shit together real quick. You have to know what you're doing brief-wise within the first or 2 weeks, because if you're going to buy props, you need to get them made, and they take ages to get made. You know, I tried to be as safe with money as possible, because it's expensive. You have to pay for all your own props. So, yeah, it's a lot. And, you know, pottery's not cheap. And you want to support, but you can't just ask people for things for free. You have to pay for things. Like, it's nice to, like, you know, someone might offer to make you some pottery for some post, but I'd rather, like, make sure I'm at least paying for the materials, because it's not cheap. And that's, yeah, so that Great British Menu was an amazing experience, and I'm still in shock that I've done it. It's crazy, because I've looked up to people like Sally Arbe, and she did it, like, I think she did it a few times, didn't she? She did it like 2 or 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And her perseverance is admirable. And I think it's great that she kept going back on, and she smashed it. She's such a nice person. Have you ever met her before?
No.
You should get her on the podcast. Yeah. She's great. Loads of other chefs. Lisa Allen, obviously, that's the chef that I look up to. She's now one of the veterans. Can you imagine we have this podcast interview again in a couple of years, or maybe 3-4 years time, and imagine if I end up getting onto the veteran panel? That would be a dream come true. I need to get not only to the banquet, but I need to win the banquet to be able to make that possible. So that's the.
Well, did you reach out to anyone before you went on it? Because obviously there's a lot of local people have been on it.
Marianne Lum, have you heard of her? I think I'm pronouncing her surname right. She was on MasterChef a while before I was, and she did Great British Menu when she had a restaurant in London, and then she did it again. I think she did it a couple of times, but she also did MasterChef the rematch with me, and she was in my group at that time. So that's how we kind of connected. And I did mention to her a few times, I was like, Marianne, how do you go about getting on Great British Menu? She was like, it's kind of like you get reached out to, and I never really expected anything from it. So I wonder if she put a good word in for me. Yeah. So that she's lovely. She's based in Leicester, and such an inspiration. And yeah, I think it's kind of like not always what you know, but it's always about who you know as well. And I think you've got to have the right personality as well. You've got to be good on camera in some cases. I don't think you always have to be good on camera to be on TV shows. I think if you're just yourself, that's always a good thing, isn't it? But yeah, Great British Menu was great.
Well, it can do wonders for. I mean, winning MasterChef obviously does a lot, but we've had people that have been on the banquet
Yeah,
and their bookings have just.
I know. I mean, you can't get
Out for a
into
whole
Tom
year.
Shepherd's restaurant anyway.
No, that's hard enough. Well, we went the other week and I booked 13 months in advance.
30, I didn't even know that the diary opens that far ahead.
Yeah, he's just. The diary for April to May just opened a few weeks ago and it
Wow.
was closed again. Like
That's incredible.
the same day, I think.
Especially in this like day and age and with everything going on in the hospitality, to have that is such a massive achievement. And it just goes to show that his food's incredible, his philosophy is incredible. He's such an incredible person. I know you've interviewed him before in this podcast.
Yeah, he's
but,
came on, yeah.
you know, we've crossed paths a few times and we did the Staff Canteen podcast together with Cara. And yeah, I thought, before I knew him, I didn't think he was as approachable as he was. But that just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover.
Everyone loves Tom though, don't they? Like when we were interviewing him, everyone was saying, "Oh, you're gonna love him. He's a great character," and he really is, isn't he? He's so tall and
Yeah.
He's tall, good looking, talented, really nice. Like, makes me sick.
It makes you sick.
There must be a fault somewhere. I've got to find it. I don't think he's got one.
Everyone's got their faults.
He's an incredible person, yeah.
He is.
how different was it, the filming process and stuff of MasterChef and Great British Menu?
Oh, it was quite different. It was like going from being a kid. I'm not saying that I was treated like a kid on MasterChef, but it was like I was quite young. And on Great British Menu, I just felt like a real adult. Like they just treat you a different way. Like they just trust you.
I
They're
suppose
like,
you're the expert coming into the kitchen that day, aren't you?
yeah, they put a lot of trust into you, and it's like it's the big boy, isn't it? It's the big boy kitchen now. So you've got to step up to the game, and you just trusted to do well, I guess. You can't. Well, I suppose not everyone does well, and you do have bad days in the kitchen, but yeah, it's you're respected in a different way, and I don't know. I just felt like an adult, a bit more. Not, I wouldn't say more relaxed, but the process is a bit more calming. Like you go through more stages of preparation. You know, you can check your ingredients and stuff like that to make sure you've got everything. There was one day when my fish course on the judges' chamber, and we had a terrible week for fish because of the weather. It was so bad, and I think I was meant to be cooking hake, and the hake that came in was awful. I had a bit of a meltdown, as I was like, it didn't come in until a certain time, so I couldn't check it. It came in, and I was like, oh no! It was just like flaked away. I couldn't cook it. If I'd cooked it, I would have got a really bad like. And it was Tom Kerridge that it was going to, so there's no way I could have served it. It probably had been frozen and defrosted because I didn't have any fish that week. So I ended up having to nick some of Adam's brill. And they aired it, and they said Louisa's having some of Adam's brill, and I was like, thanks, stitching me up.
But Great British Menu always feels like more of the chef's competition, if you know what I mean. Like, it's,
Yeah.
do you know in MasterChef there is, and it's all to do with the editing, I know, but you get the really cocky like 20-year-old head chef, and he's like, oh, I'm really ambitious, and then he like melts in the
Yeah.
invention test, the
Yeah.
innovation test, or whatever it is, and it's not to be laughed at, but like people do think, oh, good enough for him, he was way too cocky, but there's no shame in Great British Menu going out in the first round. Like it's just like, wow, I'm not surprised. Look at the competition. You are against the best of the best, and the caliber of chefs that's always been on Great British Menu, like, you know, Sat Baines, Glimpenau, Akhtar.
It makes me a bit sad though that someone has to go home after the fish course.
Yeah, I always think that's
I don't like that.
because you've got to have prepped it. You've got to know what your main course
Yeah.
and your dessert are, haven't you? I
You've
presume.
got to have had, and you've got your props as well.
I want to see them cook the whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm the
It's
same.
unfair to judge. on
Great
just
British
that.
Menu. We think that you should leave people in. Don't send anyone home on the fish course, please.
Or just have 3 people anyway.
Yeah.
There is a lot
Yeah.
of respect for Great British Menu, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's the show I look forward to the most, the cooking show, because you get to see what's up and coming as well, and you get to see what techniques people are using now and
Yeah.
where
It's
in the
very
world
modern,
people are
yeah.
using from.
I love watching it. Do you know, before my preparation for Great British Menu was rinsing every single episode of Great British Menu, because that's how I prepared for MasterChef. Because I learn inside and out what works, what doesn't work, especially in a banquet. When you get to the banquet, it's a whole different story. So you need to make sure that what you're making is not only hitting the brief, tastes good, you're also thinking about what those judges like. There's no way you can tell, because you could get any judge and you don't know who that person is until on the day. But as long as your philosophy comes across and you hit the brief and your food tastes good, there's a chance you can get through. But you're also up against 2-3 other really good chefs, and the chances are their food could be better than yours or just slightly different and works better, and they get a couple points more and they go through. It's really tough competition, but in a good way, like pushes you to do your best self. So I watched all of the episodes inside and out, so I know every single person that's been on Great British Menu. I can tell you what they have for breakfast and dinner every day. But it's a great way of preparing for it, because in my head I knew how the stages worked, in what order I would be cooking things, and it was quite nice actually. I'd get home from work and I'd watch an episode of Great British Menu, and then I'd get some inspiration. And I think I love watching cooking programs for that very reason. And Great British Menu is very foodie and chefy, so you do learn quite a bit off of it. I think I'd try and give it another shot. But there's so much stress and preparation, and you've got to really be in the right mindset for it. And obviously, as a private chef, I had to stop working. Like, obviously, if you've got a restaurant, you can have, maybe if you've got staff, you can get them to work whilst you're like filming and stuff. But I had to take quite a bit of time off work, so I'd need to see if it works, for business as well.
Actually filming from what the episode we see you on that week, how many days is that in real terms?
The whole week is a whole week from what you saw from me. But obviously, if you go home on the fish course, you're not there as long. I think we did like canapes. I don't remember exactly what days it was on, but all I remember is that I was there from Monday to Friday. And I think we did 2 or more. We did 2 courses in one day. I think that might have been the starter and fish or something like that. But I'm sure we did the main course on one day, and then we did the dessert on another day. But the judges' chamber is all in one day.
Wow.
And it is so intense.
And you still by yourself? You don't have any help? You
No.
can't bring anyone in to give you a hand?
You've got a home ec in the back who can weigh out your ingredients and stuff, and just make sure you've got everything that you need. But even then, you still prep your own station. Like, you have to make sure you've got everything on your own station. Because even like the littlest things, like you need a whisk, or you need a mat to tip, I don't know, caramel onto. You've got to make sure you've got all these things on your section. Otherwise, you're running around like a lunatic in the kitchen. And you've got a cameraman having to follow you around. So you need to try and minimise the time that you spend moving away from your section. And there's times where if Andy's coming in, or the judge, so ours was Tommy Banks, if they're coming in to chat to you, you have to move back to the middle section to chat within that interview. So forget about what's going on your workbench. You need to make sure you've got something to be working on here. Otherwise, you're wasting time. You got to think about every single little thing when you're doing this. You can't just, it's not like it's a TV show. It's not just a competition. So there's little things that you don't see, but it's an amazing experience. And it's amazing what you can do in such little time when you're under pressure in that situation. It's mind-blowing. Adam, the guy that won it, he won the fish course.
Yeah, that looked incredible as well.
Insane. His dishes were amazing. And I spoke to him quite a bit off show, because we actually went out for some food after one of the nights. And I was asking loads of questions. I was like, right, how did you cook your beef? How did you do this? What percentage brine did you do your fish at? Like, I love that. I just learn so much from different people. And he was asking me questions as well. I was absolutely honoured. I was like, Adam's asking me questions about how I make things. So that was nice. Yeah, Adam's cool. I need to go and eat at his restaurant.
Awesome. So we've took a lot of your time.
I've taken up a lot of your time.
No,
God, what time is it? Oh, God.
No, it's been fantastic. Thanks for being so open, and
No, thank
it's been
you.
really good. I don't know if you've seen, but we finish off every podcast with Carl just asking some light-hearted questions. Just a good way to end. Otherwise, it's an abrupt.
Yeah.
So he says they're.
Where's
they're not
stop saying
fast.
yeah?
They're just general fun questions.
Yeah.
About you, people get a little bit about your actual
Okay. Yeah.
away from cooking.
Cool.
What's your favourite TV show?
Favorite TV show, like as in like TV or Netflix?
Yes. Do you know anything that you would watch on a telly? So yeah, you can have Netflix.
God, that's hard. Oh, brain sizzle. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's good.
So
I like that. It's funny.
I'm just gonna go with that.
What's your favourite movie?
Favorite movie: A Star Is Born.
Which one?
Lady
four of them, isn't
Gaga,
it? The
Bradley
Lady Gaga
Cooper.
one.
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
I haven't seen it yet.
Have you not seen it?
No, I haven't seen any version of it either.
Oh,
Bradley
nice.
Cooper
I've seen it
is
at the
very good at
cinema,
singing,
like,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's watch it with the wife.
I had
It's
to
a
take a
lovely
moment, I
like
did.
love
I think I
story.
think Siobhan went to the pictures to watch it.
Yeah, I had to sit there and you sit in your chair to give yourself a minute. You don't want everyone
Yeah.
to see that you've been bawling.
Because a lot of people don't like musicals, but I don't see it as a musical. I feel like it's a lot more than a musical.
Yeah, I hate musicals,
Yeah.
but I love that.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Fantastic.
I was like that, trying to hide the crying. I went to see Dreamgirls, the musical, live. I'm not joking. Before the break, there's a bit. Then if you don't cry at that, then you've got no heart in you
Yeah.
whatsoever. And you came out and you see all these blokes just like, oh, it was dusty in there.
Yeah.
Everyone's just crying their eyes out halfway
It's
through.
nice to have a little cry every now and then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's good for the soul. It gets, what was it in Friends say? It gets the boo-hoos out.
The boo-hoos. Love that.
What's your favourite band or artist? Or DJ, as we found recently, you can have.
I'm very open-minded with music. I love Red Hot Chili Peppers. Just
Great
like a
answer.
standard kitchen prep day. But I also love everything. I love like proper old school R&B and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really hard to choose. Let's just go with Red Hot Chili Peppers. As
Yeah,
like
it's a great answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Really like that one. What's your favourite big fast food chain?
Big fast food chain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. Oh, it not necessarily favourite, but Mackey's is just so easy. You know, when like you've done like a long day at work and it's 1 a.m. and it's only a 24-hour drive through, you just get a Big Mac with it. Did you know you can order extra pickles and extra Big Mac sauce?
Can you?
Mm-hmm.
I know you can from the
For free.
machines. You know the machines? You just whack on whatever you want, don't you? On the machines.
I don't go there very often.
Honestly,
I don't
top
know.
tip: extra pickles, extra Big Mac sauce, free of charge.
There you go.
Get more for your money, and it's delicious.
I get a Big Mac if I get a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Big Mac and a milkshake.
I love Do I like Wagamama's actually? I think the last time I went to Wagamama's, I was a little bit disappointed, but it's all right.
They're just everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't move for a Wagamama. There's every city's got a Wagamama's now.
And it's consistent. It's always the same in McDonald's. Same wherever you get it here.
Yeah.
Birmingham, Northampton, Newcastle.
Have you ever heard of Pepe's?
Yeah, there's one.
I
at the
do
end of
like
my road.
Pepe's. I like the XL chicken burger, lemon and herb with peri peri fries. I know it's really safe, but that's really good.
Oh, I'm a big fan of it because they do generally cook it over
Yeah.
the big grills as well. And
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, I like it.
I like the half chicken.
Mm.
I can smash that. It's really good.
Or Nando's. Oh, see, I've gone down a rabbit hole here. I've got a few favourites.
How hot do you have Nando's?
I do like spicy food, but I always go for lemon and herb for flavour
just
reasons.
taste.
Yeah, I think it tastes better.
Because the peri peri is quite vinegary. It's a bit acidic.
I always try and push it to the what's the really
yeah,
very very hot
X.
one.
You had the garlic one. I think the garlic
Oh.
one's more spicy than the medium.
That garlic sauce is hotter than anything.
It really is.
Ridiculous.
What's your favourite dish that you cook at home?
Like a nostalgic stew with suet dumplings.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
because I like cooking it and I like eating it, so it's a win-win.
If you're getting sent to Mars tomorrow, what restaurant are you going to eat at before you go? Bear in mind that's probably the last place you'll eat here.
The Ledbury, because I haven't been and I've heard so many good things and I really want to go. So yeah, probably there. That's the first thing that came to my head, so I suppose that works, doesn't it?
It's got to be the answer.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite food destination in the world?
Oh, Lisbon. I love Lisbon.
Oh, Lisbon.
Lots
I
of
haven't been
fish
yet.
and
I just love it. Like there's a place there called Prado, and you can't get in unless you book. It's amazing. And I went and did a stage there. The food's amazing. They did this like smoked. They do lots of cooking over fire, so you would love it. But they did this clam dish with like a creamy, smoky clam, wilted kale and cabbage. It was insane. So good. Prado.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
Make a note.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having me on.
Thank you. So there it is. What a story.
Incredible.
She's unreal. So chuffed to finally get her on the podcast. It took a bit of work, but it was absolutely worth it. She absolutely smashed it. The way she shared so much of her story as well. I'm really grateful for doing that.
Yeah.
As I said, hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, just go and like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcast, wherever you get this. Watch us, listen. That's cool. Thanks again to our sponsors, Burning Barn Rum and Easy Food. Appreciate what they've done for us this year with the sponsorship. And thank you all for listening. See you all next week for the church.
Check notes. The church.
Checks notes. The church. Yeah, cool.